I'm Wynter. I'm an artist from South London, Dirty South. I'm gonna perform and then I'm gonna read a like photo lecture off my phone, and then I'm gonna perform another thing, and then we can kind of chat. My focus of my kind of thing today is talking about kind of redesigning curriculum, maybe, is a focus. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my dissertation. I went to Goldsmiths last year. I was very lucky to get in. I didn't pass my foundation. I wasn't very good at school. But they let me in because in my interview I was like, if you don't let me in, I will squat here. So they kind of let me in, which was nice. And also because of the maintenance grants, you know, they threw a lot of money at me because I was a little blurry working class queer woman, so they were like, take cash. But my time at university was really liberating because I got a chance to kind of develop this thing that I do, writing poetry and rap and stuff, but it was also a really forceful reminder of the kinds of bodies that these institutions, these rules are made for, right, middle class white men. So at art school as well, there's this huge kind of like working class drag that happens, I think, and like come third year, a lot of my friends kind of finally revealed themselves after years of like vagueness and not really talking about it, to be very privately educated, never having to have a job. I worked 40 hours a week for the whole of my degree, and it was fucking stressful. And I don't begrudge anyone who doesn't have to do that, but I begrudge you if you pretend that you're doing it. So in my dissertation, which was called Fuck Essays, Write Rap, it was about access to art kind of thing, and it was also an exploration into how I was existing at that time in these two very separate pockets of language, and that I was having to exist and often found to be quite insufficient in like academia, and I was having to endure the act of people performing their academic position, people purposefully using words that were inaccessible in order to not have me question them, and it was incredibly tiring, and I was really tired of asking and hearing my own voice go, what does that mean? What does that word mean? You know, I don't understand. When you speak like that, speak to me properly. And I was really tired of it, and I was tired of people always coming at me and saying, always bringing class into it and gender into it, as if that was a choice I was actively making and not just the reality of the way in which I was viewing artwork. Like if you're going to be a straight white man making a 10-foot oil painting, right, I'm going to ask you how you paid for it, and I'm going to ask you why you're taking up so much space in the room. That's reasonable. That's reasonable, I think. So the first language here that I was dealing with, or coming to terms with trying to deal with, was the one that is written by academics for other academics. Thousands of essays, right, thousands, with no access, written for other people that are also writing the same shit, so we can all get around the circle jerk. Which is a tragedy because these essays are so liberating and can really change people's lives, particularly in relation to race and gender and class. And there are so many working class kids out there who would love this material, who would love to understand what their body's going through, right? But the essays are kept inaccessible on purpose because the university, in order to survive, has to have leverage. It has to have something that you don't have. The institution has to maintain its position as an escape route or something of a transcendence. And it has to continue to write to people and tell them that what you really want to do when you go to uni is leave your body behind in a way. So the second language I was dealing with was slang, a language that is essentially formed, I think, in order to protect subculture, so of any form, class, race, gender, whatever, to protect yourselves as a subculture from the police, from universities, from schools, from people that pose a threat to your community, particularly in regards to like appropriation, or like monopolising off you, and gentrifying existences. Slang is essentially an exclusive language in that people don't get access to it depending on where they live in their class and their race. But it's also incredibly inclusive in that in its form, it's formed out of desperation, it's formed out of creating secret in a way, and it's readily available to the people that need it. So like people of colour, for example, who have long used slang to protect their identities from white people and to protect their culture from appropriation. Queer people and working class people have always done the same, albeit on a slightly smaller scale. And it's because the need to talk about things that are deemed inappropriate or illegal by the institutions breeds new forms of language, one that's constantly like fluid and updates itself and reevaluates itself all the time in order to kind of keep the protection, keep the barriers up. So the comparisons of these languages were really important for me because I think it really highlights the way in which cultures and communities are demonised and told that they're not intelligent, you're not creative, you're only as good as your product value underneath capitalism. It's a really obvious example of how learning inside an institution is pedestaled above learning on a peer-to-peer level. I'm into learning as survival and I'm into learning as a defence mechanism. So when I was writing this dissertation at uni, I was hit by a roadblock because rules of Goldsmith, you have to include one book, and I was like, fuck. All I've got is like pages and pages of like nothing, YouTube videos. So I found this person, he wrote a little short essay, you probably all know him, it's probably really blatant. He's called Ivan Illich. So I'm just going to talk about some of his quotes. He wrote a book called Deschooling, well it's like an essay, it's called Deschooling Society. It's not, I don't think it's too hard to read, I had to read it a few times, but it's alright. So, quote 1. Many students, especially those who are poor, intuitively know what the schools do for them. They school them to confuse process and substance. Once these become blurred and new logic is assumed, the more treatment there is, the better the results, or escalation leads to success. The pupil is thereby schooled to confuse teaching with learning, grade advancement with education, diploma with competence, and fluency with the ability to say something new. So what Illich is saying here is that we are convinced by the monetary success of the people in academia that what they're saying is infinitely more important and valuable than what we're saying, and that the ability to talk at length about theory or ideas past is more valuable than new, exciting radical developments, and these ideas are defined by a curriculum. We all know what it is, a series of skills and ideas that an institution has decided people have to know these things in order to progress and succeed. It's algebra over taxes, right? And it's also a reinforcement of us and them, teacher, student, giver, receiver. This idea is really dangerous and flawed, and also when you put it inside a curriculum, in that instead of understanding that knowledge is power contextually, and that some people will find liberation in certain areas of interest, it says that we should all strive for the same level of knowing about everything. So this creates this blank state of competition with no real endpoint except just a hierarchy of qualifications and a really capitalist idea of your self-worth, which is enforced from when we're like 4. So we're fed this curriculum that's white and male and we don't get to question it, and we're also told that all other sources of learning are irrelevant or useless. Illich goes on to say, learning on one's own is deemed unreliable, and community organisation, when not paid for by those in authority, is considered a form of aggression or subversion. The reliance on institutional treatment renders independent accomplishment suspect. So I think what he's saying here, we'll have a guess, is he's like dealing with how institutions and capitalism tell us that what we learn outside of their brackets is trouble, is a problem, and so the way they counteract that is by telling us that it's worthless. And they're organising in a way that doesn't produce capital should be treated with suspicion, because who's it gaining? Because they can't understand this idea of like gain outside a capitalist idea. So it tells us that our individual successes are useless, because how do you quantify it? What are they going to become? How do they translate from your individual light bulb moment back into produce? He's also quite clearly saying that the institution is scared of the people who have the power and the guts to educate each other, because this is where we can start to generate a guilt-free education, which I talk about, like I kind of termed this, a guilt-free education to me is one where you aren't at any point found worthless because of your inability to do something or your inability to understand something, and it comes from like the idea of like a peer-to-peer shared learning where you're not left indebted to anyone because no one takes the position as a teacher, you don't owe anyone anything, which is to say that students, I think we're told that we kind of only exist with teacher, right? Like we owe our heads to them. And when you apply this to how sexist and racist and homophobic and fucked up the institution is, it means that if you are a student who's already dealing with a level of oppression, the more you learn, the heavier your weight, the heavier your burden, because you're told that you don't deserve it, you're lucky that you should be given that. And we all deserve access to all forms of education, particularly education that we need to actually survive. So in this essay, are you with me?
Yeah.
So in this essay, he speaks about his friend, who I'm obsessed with at the moment, who says, the Brazilian teacher, Paulo Freire knows this from experience. He discovered that any adult can begin to read in a matter of 40 hours if the first words that he deciphers are charged with political meaning. Since 1962, Freire has moved from exile to exile because he refuses to conduct his sessions around words which are pre-selected and approved by educators rather than those which his discussant brings to the class. So Freire used to do this thing when he would go to these poor places in Brazil, and people would come to them and he'd be like, oh, you know, like what's going on? They'd be like, oh, you know, the government's doing this and that, and we can't do anything about it. So he taught them very quick, like 40 hours, how to talk about money, how to read it, so that when they were getting papers, right, how they kind of come over by doing paper, you can't read it, so you can't access it. So he taught these people how to read. I just think he's fucking genius. This is a really exciting example of how those who are explicitly told they cannot learn and don't deserve to learn are entirely capable. Everyone has the capacity to grow and develop. Everyone should be given the choice to do that if they want. And here we see something which I'm really into, which is education as a form of retaliation, education as a defense mechanism, educate people to liberate them, and liberate them by teaching them to speak the language of an oppressor, which is a frustrating thing to have to do, but I think that if you start to learn those languages, then you can throw them back in people's faces, which is satisfying. Academia also enforces this idea of a secret keeper, which is someone who has the knowledge that you need, but you can only have it if you've got money and privilege. So we know they have the thing that we need to do whatever we want to do, and they're not going to give it to us out of sharing. So my position of being an artist, and I'm just going to bring it back to my experiences recently. When you do art, you will get to a point potentially where you want to apply for Arts Council funding, which is a fucking huge form. I'm really dyslexic as well. It's a huge form. It's really, really hard. And if someone doesn't explicitly tell you exactly what to say, how to get that money, you're not going to get that money. And this is intentional because Arts Council don't want to give the money to people who are radical. They don't want to give the money to grassroots ideas. They don't want to give the money to anyone who's going to actually build communities with it. But I was lucky enough to meet another working class female artist girl called Kerry. She's from Luton, she's wicked, and she sat me down, 4 hours we sat down and wrote out that form and lied and did everything we could to get this money, right? And got it, and it was great. But this is the kind of skill set that actually actively goes against capitalism. It's us saying that we don't believe you when you tell us there's not enough for everyone, that you are lying. And there's similar gestures that take place on lots of scales, as minor as what you said earlier about telling your mate about that gig that you were kind of holding on to, but you know they'd be good for it, tell that person about that book, all that kind of stuff. This sharing, once you learn to do it generously, is so radical, and it's the skills sharing that I think Illich is kind of talking about in this essay. So the last quote I'm going to talk about, which is so good, is this. He says, educators want to avoid the ignorant meeting the ignorant around a text which they may not understand and that they're only reading because they're interested in it. So true, right? Institutions are not interested in you doing something for a motive, visceral reaction. They want a theory of it. I get a lot of shit because a lot of institutions are too emotional, and I'm like, fuck you, no way. But also this is putting into this idea that only some people deserve an education, right? You only deserve an education if you know what to do with it. But I think everyone should have all the education they want, and it should be a choice. And it's also this idea that a book is dangerous in the wrong hands, and that an emotive response is worth less than an academic one, or that a child who is reading Shakespeare and just really enjoying the sound of the words, that has less value than someone writing a fucking thesis about it. It's awful, such bad. Anyway, we should encourage everyone, I think, to follow their interests. We should use our skill sets that we know that we can do, that we can share, to encourage other people to explore their own unashamedly, with lots of space for mistakes. Without grading or the idea of results, we should start to do this kind of guilt-free education. And we also have to finally acknowledge that the reason academia keeps its cards so close to its chest is because it's scared of what happens when you start to use education to take apart capitalist structures, which is associated to theory. And I would say, they don't have to worry about that the whole time. The theory is being written by the theorists, but the moment we all start to develop our own and have these kind of conversations, then we're actually completely subverting the ideas of an institution.
Yeah.
Ran over. But if anyone wants to ask me any questions or...
You were fucking amazing.
I
just wanted to ask you if you're on the internet or any of your work or anything.
Mate, I'm all over the internet. You can find me on Facebook. I'm Wynter. My last name is W-Y-N-T-E-R. I'm on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube, quite a lot of my little face on YouTube. So yeah, I'm around.
Cool. Thanks.
Going back to you saying about art school and stuff, because I went to art school as well, went to Wimbledon, and also I was the only person of colour.
Yeah, you were famous,
It's really difficult in a radical body in that institutional space. I've had they threatened to call the cops on me in one of my performances. It was told that art shouldn't be personal, I should be making personal art, I shouldn't call myself a feminist artist and all sorts of stuff. And it's not so much a question, but sort of agreeing with you as well.
Yeah, I think particularly it's very. I'm kind of trying to do this research project now. I'm not very good at research because it's hard, but I'm trying to do research. And I'm getting really invested in the idea of reclaiming the hysterical woman and like becoming a contemporary hysterical woman. I'm that. I'm so down for that, you know. But I think that it's kind of quite a radical thing to do because we are so told that like in order to maintain, there's a really good like another like short essay. It's called Writing, like correcting trauma, and this woman talks about how like she's got like a master's, she's super clever, and she's trying to talk about theoretically stuff that is like really emotionally like she's really invested in, and people just dismiss her because her voice wobbles when she talks about it. And it's these ideas that any form of emotive language is immediately non-academic or non-useful, or that we don't learn from those experiences, you know, like those are totally valid, and particularly as a woman, like any sign of emotion, they're like, no, crazy bitch, get out.
I was on the sculpture course, which, surprise.
It was the bro squad.
It was the bro squad, yeah, exactly. And you're kind of like expected to kind of adhere to a certain kind of, I don't know, like way of working and stuff, and I mean, it was even very clear in like how my peers interacted with me as well, because like I had a table which then ended up getting taken over by sculpture bros, and I had like this little space as I'm like making performance art, and they're all like making fucking massive fucking phallic sculptures. As sculpture bros do. But it can be very difficult to kind of like regain those spaces within institutions and
It's an unrelated note. Not to your talk, but what you were talking about. But it is related to being emotional. When you were talking about having like guilt-free, what was the phrase you used?
Guilt-free education.
I like nearly burst into tears because I was like, that is what I want.
But it's real. It's real. The more I learned, and the more I was surrounded by these people speaking like this, the more I felt like I really just did not. I really felt like I was like imposter, like a scam. I was waiting at any minute for someone to be like, oh shit, oh no, mate, like get out, you know? And particularly because I was doing a fine art course and writing, like that's what I do. That was my practice. So I was already fighting this battle of like, no, fuck you, this is art. This is art. And I was already fighting that battle, and then also having to like not having the correct like way to fight it. Like I was having to argue with people about why it was art, and then I couldn't even do it in the right way, and it was so frustrating. And like the more I learned, the more I was like, and also I think when you're working class, you get real worried that there's going to be this separation that happens. Like you're going to go into academia, and like this is going to happen with your family, right? And like it's going to be this big kind of divide that happens, and it can happen. And I've seen like people get real fucking bougie, you know, back at university. So yeah, it's really difficult, I think. Guilt-free education for me is like, if you're already like someone who's some way oppressed, you know, and you're taking the fucking huge step to put yourself in this building that hates you, like the walls hate you, you know, like you deserve nothing but like positiveness back at you, and then like even down to the curriculum, you know, where are the fucking women of colour on you know, we like in first year Goldsmiths, it took 4 weeks until there was a woman on our reading list, like of lectures, and I was like, this is fuck, I don't care what these dead white men are saying. You know?
I was at Goldsmiths, I did drama a few years ago. And it, like the way that the sort of art course is sort of marketed, and the way that everyone like waltzes around campus, like in the whole uni, it's just it's super left wing and super free and super liberal and super forward thinking, and it's lost the train of thought. And I don't necessarily feel like I was felt very liberated while I was at uni, and only like 4 years after graduating feel the most liberated I've ever felt. But it's interesting to hear you talk about the art course, just because of the way that I viewed it whilst I was there. And just what was it? Was it like? Was it like your peers, or is it the lecturers, or is it like actually everyone, like that you felt like the sort of opposition and towards your work and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there's like the legitimate opposition, which is like I had a big fucking argument with this female, quite older, like old school feminist who really hated my work, and I was like, that's really good, like good. But she was like, I can't access it because you've called it rap, and I was like, Go on then, let's have a fucking go. What are we talking about? Oh, because it's rape, like, what are you talking about? She was like, rap is just really inaccessible for me as like a 40-year-old white woman. Yeah, cool. You know, it's got to be like that. I know, and I was like, it's not for you. I didn't fucking sit here and write this for you. But also, I think there was the legitimate opposition. There was legitimate people who, even tutors, even now, who would be like, she's just like crazy bitch. But also, there was these accidental oppositions in that, because like I said, I was working a 40-hour week, which is a lot, you know, and it was really hard, and I was really struggling to like do everything and be everywhere. And a classic thing I had was like really like good friends constantly telling me to quit my job, and I was like, I cannot explain to you the fact that I cannot do that. Like, you know, like I have a family at home who, like, my mum who can't work very much, I've got to send money there, like I've got to keep money, I've got to pay fucking London rent. You know, I have to exist, and again, like that's why I started writing. That's why I started writing, because I couldn't afford to make any other work, and I was like, what do? I can't afford a camera, I can't make film, I can't paint. Like I'm gonna have to fucking do writing, and that's why I started kind of doing that. But also, I think it's like I don't know if you can talk about. I don't know if is microaggression specifically to do with rape. I can talk about it in other ways. Like so, like the little microaggressions of like, like oh, you should really quit your job, or like oh, you know, like. You know, you can't come in like 10 minutes late, but like, I've fucking just been at work, fuck you, you know? It's really frustrating.
Yeah, things like to do with attitudes at Goldsmiths and also stuff about being personal survivor. It's kind of the things that people always say, but I just relate to much what you're saying. I was at Goldsmiths and I've still not fucking properly graduated because because my mental health problems, I was really struggling to fucking complete my degree with it. But I got so much negativity that it completely blocked me, and now I just cannot write. And they keep being like, because Barry Haywood's a good disability officer, oh, we keep it open for you to write your dissertation, and I just cannot fucking do it. And it's like, but yeah, as a survivor, when I made the first 2 years, your work's too fucking personal, it's too emotional. And then I was making work that was still personal to me, but was more political, as a word. Oh, you're too political now, you're too radical. You know, and it's like, yeah, and this, what you were saying about this idea that Goldsmiths is some lefty place, you always get students that get politicised when they go to university. They become socialists or anarchists, and they have some occupations, and they get involved in stuff about free education. But the actual lecturers, they all think they're so fucking liberal and progressive, but, you know, all our experience is they just shut you down. You know, it's like, no, we don't want to hear your voices. You know, it's too emotional, it's not theoretical, academic enough, or stop making art like that. Well, what did you give me a fucking place for then?
And also, like, I
was
think
assigned a tutor who absolutely hated my work, and she was my personal tutor for 2 years. We only got to see our tutors twice a year if we were lucky, because of London, you know. And she had this breakdown, being like, I can't deal with your work. Like, like I think I might have to you might just have to swap tutor. I just can't deal with you.
That's so ridiculous. And it's so frustrating as well because it is so real that like being in these institutions can really drain you of the thing that you love. Like Kate Tempest, who obviously I like, she did a lecture at uni in my first year, and it was really fucking inspiring. She said like some really good advice, like a lot of it has stayed with me. But I remember the one thing she said was that because she did her English degree at Goldsmiths, and she was like, she stood there in front of the whole of Goldsmiths and was like, I fucking hated it, and I will tell you why, because you made me rip apart everything that I loved and completely destroy it, and now all I can see is holes in like what was once like hearts. And I was just like, oh, you know, like that's it. Like it was such a beautiful way to explain it. It was that, and like it's really difficult to like maintain your energies and your passions when you're constantly being forced to pull it apart, and also having to pull it apart in regards to theory instead of in regards to emotion or a lived experience. Like this is the thing when I was writing my dissertation, I was just writing about 2 types of language that I was having to use, and then talking about like, you know, referring to like, I don't know, fucking TV shows and stuff. This idea that I had to put a book in it, to justify all of my fucking work. I was like, no! And like, it's just all this bullshit bureaucracy. It goes round and round, doesn't it? You can't escape it, other than like burning them all down. Hi, sorry.
Hi, I just want to react, say thank you to you, and also to the other people that have spoken. I started off, I didn't share when I gave the first talk I did. I started off my first career going to teach training college because I felt education was really important, really passionate. I got shut down in my training because I kept on objecting to the way education theory was being taught. I never got the certificate in the end. They tried to give me lots of chances, but I kept objecting to their theories. And I went from there into the mental health system. I trained to be a psychiatric nurse. And the same thing happened. I kept saying to the people who were offering these things, this is all about social control.
Yeah.
And then I went into social services, the same damn thing happened. I got sacked again because I was protesting too much. And these things aren't accidents. What you're all saying is, I mean, this isn't just a personal reaction from each of us to what's going on. This is no accident, this is planned. This is absolutely deliberate on the part of the authorities in terms of education, health service and social service. This is about social control. It's about controlling people like us in terms of our gender, in terms of our identity, in terms of our path through life, our creativity, everything.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
No, I'm going to stop because I'm sick of my voice. But thank you. Thank you.